America and Britain in prophecy, also known as the U.S. and the U.K. in prophecy, the United States and the United Kingdom in prophecy, originally the United States and British Commonwealth in prophecy by Herbert W. Armstrong. This audio reading along with scrolling text by Stephen Lloyd Gilbreath. Chapter 1, The Lost Master Key has been found. Chapter overview of Chapter 1, There is Purpose and Why This Ignorance. This may sound incredible, but it's true. Editors, newscasters, foreign correspondents don't understand the real meaning of the world news they report, analyze, and discuss. Heads of government are utterly unaware of the true significance of the very world-shaking events with which they deal. They have no conception of where these events are leading. Incredible? Perhaps, but true. Winston Churchill declared before the United States Congress, "He must indeed have a blind soul who cannot see that some great purpose and design is being worked out here below, of which we have the honor to be the faithful servants." But he did not understand that purpose. That great purpose, long ago, was master-planned by the mastermind of the universe. There is purpose. It's true, though almost totally unrealized. Mankind was put on this earth for a purpose, and the maker of mankind sent along with the human product of his making an instruction book to reveal that purpose and to guide men in happily, enjoyably fulfilling it. But the human race has rejected the revelation and the guidance and has preferred to stumble on in the darkness of its own futile reasonings. About 1/3 of that instruction book is devoted to basic education, revealing to man the necessary foundational knowledge otherwise undiscoverable and unknowable, knowledge of what man is, why he is, where his destiny may lead, how to reach it and live happily along the way, revealing knowledge of the true values as distinguished from the false, knowledge of the way to peace, happiness, abundant well-being. In other words, the most necessary of all knowledge, the foundation on which to build discoverable knowledge. Another approximate third of that book is devoted to history, to those events and experiences fulfilling the master plan during the first 4 millennia of man's mortal sojourn as examples for our admonition and guidance today. And then approximately a third grasp this. An entire third of our Maker's revelation to mankind is devoted to prophecy, writing the history of future events before they occur. These foretold future events reveal the great purpose being finally worked out, being brought to its completion. Why this ignorance? Now see why heads of state, news analysts, and the great minds of our time do not comprehend the real meaning of world events as they're shaping up right now. A rational and right knowledge of this great purpose, of the Creator's master plan, of where in the progression of these foreordained events we stand today, and of major happenings prophesied yet to occur. This knowledge is the essential basis for understanding the significance and true meaning of today's dynamic world news. Without this vital knowledge, none dealing in world news gathering and news reporting None responsible for government policies can understand current world happenings or where they are leading. And not one saddled with such responsibilities does know. Why? Two reasons primarily. One, they've been deceived by false education, appealing to the vanity of intellect, into prejudicial and disdainful rejection of the divine revelation which alone can impart this understanding. And two, the vital key necessary to unlock closed doors of biblical prophecy had been lost. The great world powers of our time have been and are the United States, the Soviet Union, Great Britain, Germany, France, and other Western European nations. The missing vital key is simply the identity of these great world powers in biblical prophecy. The staggering and cataclysmic world-shaking events soon to erupt upon a shocked, stunned, bewildered world relate directly and specifically to the United States, Britain, Germany, Western Europe, and Russia. Not knowing how and where these nations are specifically mentioned in basic and major prophecies, the educated of the world have been utterly blinded to the plain and simple meaning of prophecy. Due to this lost key, more than anything else, the Bible has come to be discredited and rejected in this world's educational system. The unproved and unprovable theory of evolution has been substituted as the foundational concept which became the supposed rational approach to knowledge. The colossal tragedy of it, our peoples being thus falsely and deceptively educated from little children, have in a supposed era of advanced rationalism and enlightenment actually been groping around in the darkness of ignorance, misunderstanding, and confusion, fatally unaware of the earth-shaking catastrophe into which they are being directly plunged. Thus, our peoples have forgotten and departed far from their Maker. They have shut their eyes and closed their ears to his dynamic revelation to mankind, which, to ears that can hear, thunders out the life and death warning to those in the responsible positions of power. Is it too late? Have our leaders become so steeped in a deceptive false education, so stultified, that they cannot be aroused from slumber? God help us now. Time is fast closing in on us, but the all-important master key has been found. That key is the knowledge of the astonishing identity of the American and British peoples, as well as the German, in biblical prophecies. This very eye-opening, astounding identity is the strongest proof of the inspiration and authority of the Holy Bible. It is at the same time the strongest proof of the very active existence of the living God. And an exciting, pulsating, vital third of all the Bible is devoted to prophecy. And approximately 90% of all prophecy pertains to our time now in this latter half of the 20th century, now 21st. Now the initial part of the 21st century. You know, we have to update this as we mentally or, as otherwise read it, because God purposely had to change his mind about when he would have Christ return, and as he was inspiring his end-time apostle to tell us, largely because of his people that he had called of the end time, You know, he had to test Abraham and Isaac, and didn't know until the last moment whether Abraham would obey him. Only stopping him at the very last second and said, "Hold it, Abraham," when he was about to sacrifice Isaac. "Now I know." And those of you who are brethren, I'm just going to say, or possibly future potential brethren of the church of God, not a physical, organized church of God, but of the spiritual organism to which God may call some more people in these latter days, because so many failed him, at least partially along the way, and not willing that any should perish. See 2 Peter 3, verses 8 and 9. Not willing that any should perish, and this applies to those he's called now to the spring harvest, especially because judgment, life and death judgment, is on those whom he has called now to the spring harvest. And once he's made that call, that's it. It's first or third. First resurrection or third resurrection, lake of fire. It's not like the rest of the world that has a first or second. Well, they could have a first, but they largely have a second resurrection option to be called later, after Christ returns and there's no Satan. But God had to delay it because so many of us were not approved by God. He had to delay. It's a warning to us, to our English-speaking peoples, of immediate life and death import. And this delay has been for the benefit of the life of those of you who were not pulling it together the way God wanted to see us pull it together. It's time, brethren, we shape it up. The prophecies come alive once their doors are opened by this now discovered master key. This book will open to open minds this hitherto closed vital third of all the Bible. No story of fiction ever was so strange, so fascinating, so absorbing, so packed with interest and suspense as this gripping story of our identity and our ancestry. Through it, Almighty God gives momentous warning. Those who read and heed may be spared unprecedented cataclysmic tragedy soon to strike. And brethren, because I interjected into this because Mr. Armstrong wrote, as God inspired him, that God wanted to wrap it up toward the end of the 20th century, before the 20th century ended. God himself has had to delay this because we were not heeding properly what is a momentous warning, as it says here. And it's a life and death thing, and we'd better get with it now and do what Christ said in Luke 21:36. Watch, therefore, because this thing, he's not going to stop it again. It's going to come like a snare on all them that dwell upon the face of the whole world. It's going to come as a surprise, a shock to the whole world, including many brethren. If our peoples and their governments will awaken, heed, and return to their living God, then our nations may be spared. God help us to understand. Next, we'll go to chapter 2 of the U.S. and the U.K. in prophecy.